I've spoken to the Prime Minister in his office a short time ago about the ministry, about the reshuffle and a range of other issues, including the Hezbollah-Israel tensions that look like they could spiral into all-out war, the latest in the United States with Kamala Harris, and improving poll numbers there, and also these controversial remarks made over the weekend by Barnaby Joyce. Prime Minister, thanks very much for your time. In your reshuffle announced yesterday, you even had a special envoy for social cohesion announced. Today we see this quote from Barnaby Joyce. He was at a rally against offshore wind proposals, and he said, I'll quote it to you and get your reaction. He said, "The bullet you have is that little piece of paper in that magazine called The Voting Box. Get ready to load that magazine. Goodbye, Chris. Goodbye, Stephen. Goodbye, Albo." What do you make of that language?
That it's completely unacceptable, that it's a test for Peter Dutton. Peter Dutton has had 4 reshuffles, he should have a 5th, and Barnaby Joyce should go. This is the sort of language which has no place in any part of Australian society, let alone in public life, from someone who has served as Deputy Prime Minister, not just once but twice, someone who continues to serve as a Shadow Minister. The analogy that he uses, to use a gun analogy, at a time when the AFP Commissioner has warned that there have been over 700 threats or harassments of members of Parliament in the last year, is just completely unacceptable. We have seen what has occurred with the attempted assassination of former President Trump in the United States. We have seen violence committed against members of Parliament, including 2 have lost their lives in the Westminster system in the UK. And here you have a guy going to a rally, calling for action, using analogies of guns, bullets, magazines, and goodbye to 3 members of the government. What does this bloke have to do to lose his job? We've seen other incidents involving Barnaby Joyce, which should have cost him his job in recent months and over a period of time. And this is someone who, of course, has used language in the past when it comes to climate change that has sought to incite division. Remember, Whyalla was going to be wiped off the map. Roasts were going to cost $100 a kilo. There was all that sort of rhetoric from Barnaby Joyce in the past, but this is a new level, and it is time that this bloke had a good look at himself, but it's also time that Peter Dutton showed a bit of leadership, had a 5th reshuffle. He's already got more members of his front bench than there are backbenchers. He's got 45. He has a bigger front bench than the government has, where you're only allowed to have 42. He's got 45. So one can leave the front bench. You'll still have more people shadowing than there are ministers.
Barnaby Joyce apologised. Does that change things?
He continually. This was a conscious thing. I've seen the footage, and I'm sure that you will show it as well. This was a statement to a rally that was very clear, and it is completely unacceptable. And Peter Dutton needs to make a decision over whether he will back this up or whether he'll just take action. I heard the deputy leader of the Liberal Party, of the opposition, this morning said that they weren't words that she would use, but refused to condemn it. I mean, what do you have to do to incite division if this is acceptable?
Well, yeah, we'll wait to see what Peter Dutton says about these remarks from Barnaby Joyce, but they were quite extraordinary in that sense. Are you worried it incites behaviour, though?
Well, of course it does. How else could you view it except to see that this was using language which should never be used anywhere, to use these sort of things. And I'll say this to Barnaby Joyce, you're no Tim Fisher. Tim Fischer, as leader of the National Party, showed great courage and was a great Australian. He showed courage in standing up, along with John Howard, for bipartisan gun reform. You can use, surely, a whole lot of analogies can be used without resorting to using analogies about bullets, magazines of weapons, and without speaking about people being said goodbye and disappearing. And it's unacceptable. And Peter Dutton has a choice today. This is a test for Peter Dutton, who will often go too far himself, but he hasn't got anywhere near this. This is a new level that I have not seen from someone in public life in Australia.
Let's look at the reshuffle. Home Affairs going to one of your key figures in the government, a very important figure, the Leader of the House, Tony Burke. Why didn't you just change the name, though, of Home Affairs? Because all those agencies are out now, including ASIO.
No, that's not right. Home Affairs will look after border security and those issues, as well as looking at immigration. It was a logical thing to put ASIO together with the AFP. We inherited a system that was simply dysfunctional, and we've had a trinity of reports from Christine Nixon, from Dennis Richardson, and from indeed the former head of Prime Minister and Cabinet under the former Liberal coalition government, who've all spoken about the dysfunction that was there in Home Affairs. So what we have done is talk those issues through, come up with a sensible proposition. Tony Burke will be excellent. Tony Burke has, of course, served in the portfolio in the past. He'll be ably assisted by Matt Thistlethwaite and Julian Hill. And I have appointed as well Peter Khalil in the area of social cohesion, that's important, as well as Andrew Charlton, doing work as an envoy on the whole issue of cybersecurity, digital resilience. These are big issues and big challenges for the country going forward.
Yep, and as you said, those two both big thinkers. As for Tony Burke, James Patterson has said that Tony Burke is a failed immigration minister. On his watch, in 80 days, more than 6,000 illegal arrivals. He says it's a shocking message of weakness to people smugglers. What's your reaction to that?
Well, James Patterson is a shocking message to Australians that all you need to do is to be negative and oppose everything. I mean, this is a guy who, I think it was on one of your programs, said that myself and Penny Wong should apologise to Israel over the Zombie Frankham issue, where an Australian lost their life, where the Israeli Defence Force have acknowledged that was as a result of a mistake. It's about time James Patterson stood up for the Australian national interest instead of just playing politics. The only person and group who send messages to people smugglers which could give them some heart is the coalition. What we've done is put in place Operation Sovereign Borders with more funding than it has ever received since it was created. Simple as that. And Tony Burke, of course, instituted in the time in which I was Deputy Prime Minister and he was Minister, he instituted the deal with Papua New Guinea.
You've said that you'll be the first Prime Minister, if you win the election, since John Howard to serve a full term and be re-elected. It is a long time between
more than 20 years.
Yeah,
Kieran.
No, that's true. But do you think that we look at the drama, and I'm not getting you to talk about the individuals, or the outcome, but you look at the drama in the US and elsewhere, does the stability, are you hoping that stability argument will compare favourably in the minds of voters when they go to the ballot box?
Well, it's real, Kieran. The truth is that Prime Ministers Rudd, Gillard, Turnbull, Abbott were all removed by their own party, and it will be the first time since the 2004 election, if I'm successful, so it will be more than 20 years since we have had any continuity at all in leadership. And that is something that my government has brought. Stability, as I've said today, we have the first reshuffle after more than 2 years and 2 months. That compares with 4 reshuffles under Peter Dutton. And in spite of that, he went almost 300 days, 292 in fact, before he replaced Stuart Robert, just left the spot vacant of that portfolio. You've had dysfunction on the other side. What you've had with this Labor government is stability, order, consistency going forward. The minor reshuffle that we have brought forward as a result of the decision of Ministers Burney and O'Connor to retire at the next election and step back from the ministry, and Senator Carol Brown making the decision to prioritise her health in the lead up to the next election, where she will contest and continue as a senator from Tasmania. I think that stability does matter. The revolving door made us, I know, internationally, people were looking at us and thinking, what sort of operation is this when you have a different Prime Minister every couple of years? And we saw that in the UK, of course, with 3 British Prime Ministers that I met in the first 6 months of holding the office of Prime Minister of Australia. Now, that wasn't a good thing, and I think under our system, it wasn't a good thing that you have had such a turbulent time in Australian politics over the last couple of decades.